Now, let me ask you something that most people are too afraid to admit. When a relationship has a noticeable age gap, what hurts first isn't the relationship itself, it's the noise, the comments, the suspicious looks, the little jokes that pretend to be harmless. And after hearing those voices long enough, something dangerous happens. You stop asking whether the relationship makes you feel alive, and you start asking whether you're allowed to feel alive. I've watched men sit across from me, shoulders tense, speaking in almost apologetic voices. I know how this looks. I know people will judge. I don't even know if what I'm feeling is real. Notice something? They weren't confused by the woman. They were confused by everyone else's opinion. Because once society hands you a script, it's incredibly difficult to hear your own heart over the applause or the criticism. But here's what fascinates me. The healthiest age gap couples I've ever met almost never began by chasing an age difference. They weren't searching for someone younger or older. They were searching for peace. Sometimes they didn't even realize it. They simply met someone who made the constant tension inside them become quiet. That silence can be frightening, especially if you've spent years believing that love should feel dramatic. Many men mistake emotional chaos for chemistry because chaos is familiar. If every important relationship in your life required proving yourself, earning affection, waiting for approval, then calmness almost feels suspicious. You start wondering, shouldn't this be harder? Maybe that's why you're questioning your own relationship right now. Maybe nothing terrible has happened. Maybe she respects you. Maybe conversations flow naturally. Maybe disagreements don't become emotional wars. And instead of appreciating that, a part of you keeps waiting for disaster. Because when you've lived through enough disappointment, peace feels temporary. You don't trust it. You inspect it. You search for hidden motives. Especially when there's an age gap. Your mind whispers, what if she eventually wants someone younger? What if I'm fooling myself? What if people are right? Those questions don't appear because your relationship is weak. They often appear because fear has a louder voice than experience. Here's something I've learned after years of listening to people tell the truth, only after they've stopped pretending. A soulmate connection isn't identified by how impressive it looks from the outside. It's revealed by what happens inside you when no one else is watching. When you're sitting alone, no audience, no opinions, no social media, no family expectations, just you. And the quiet realization that this person somehow makes you feel more like yourself instead of less. That feeling is rare. Rare enough that many people spend their entire lives searching for it while chasing things that only look like love. And the first sign of a genuine soulmate bond is almost never what people expect. The first sign isn't passion, it isn't constant excitement, and it definitely isn't the age difference itself. It's emotional safety. I know that sounds almost too ordinary. Most people don't click on videos hoping to hear about safety. They want mystery, intensity, fireworks. But let me tell you something that quietly changes lives. Your nervous system knows the difference between love and survival long before your mind does. Think about the relationships that exhausted you. You probably replayed every text message in your head. You wondered why she suddenly sounded different. You measured every pause in conversation. One day she seemed warm, the next day she felt distant. And before you knew it, your entire emotional state depended on whether your phone lit up. That isn't necessarily love. Very often, that's anxiety wearing love's clothes. Now picture something completely different. You're driving together without speaking for several minutes. No pressure to entertain each other, no awkward silence, just two people sharing the same space, completely at ease. You glance at her and she smiles, not because she's trying to impress you, but because she's genuinely happy you're there. Nothing dramatic happened, yet somehow the moment feels full. Those moments rarely make headlines, but they're often where real love quietly grows. I've noticed something interesting over the years. Men who discover this kind of connection often feel confused at first. They tell themselves, maybe I'm not as attracted to her as I thought. Why? Because their body isn't flooded with stress anymore. They mistake the absence of emotional chaos for the absence of chemistry. Isn't that strange? We've been taught that love should leave us breathless, but sometimes the healthiest love simply lets you breathe. If she's younger, you may expect immaturity. If she's older, you may expect control or criticism. Instead, you find curiosity, respect, kindness. And suddenly, the stereotypes you've carried for years begin to fall apart. That can be unsettling, not because something is wrong, but because something inside you has to change. You can no longer hide behind old assumptions. You have to meet the real person standing in front of you. I remember a man once telling me something I'll never forget. He said, "For the first time, I don't feel like I'm performing." Those words stayed with me because so many men spend years performing confidence, performing strength, performing success, even performing indifference when they're deeply afraid of being hurt. Then one day they meet someone who doesn't ask for the performance. She pays attention to the man beneath it, and slowly, almost without noticing, he begins to relax. His laugh sounds different. His shoulders stop carrying invisible weight. He no longer edits every sentence before speaking. He doesn't have to. That isn't about age, that's about acceptance. A soulmate bond doesn't erase your flaws. It creates a space where your flaws don't become weapons against you. You still disagree. You still have difficult conversations. You still have moments of doubt. But underneath all of that is a quiet belief that neither of you is trying to win. You're trying to understand. That's a completely different emotional experience. And here's what makes it so easy to overlook. It feels normal. Not because it's ordinary, because it's what your heart has been searching for all along. When someone becomes your emotional home, your mind often stops asking, "How do I keep this person?" Instead, another question quietly appears. Why do I feel more like myself whenever I'm with her? That question leads us to the second sign. Because when two people share a bond that's deeper than timing, appearances, or expectations, they don't just accept each other's lives, they begin to quietly change each other's future, without ever asking the other person to become someone they're not. The second sign is something people rarely notice until they're already living it. You don't inspire each other through pressure, you inspire each other through possibility. There is a quiet but powerful difference. Pressure says, "You need to change before you're enough." Possibility whispers, "I can already see the man you're becoming." Those two messages create completely different lives. I've seen men who spent years feeling emotionally stuck. They weren't lazy, they weren't incapable. They were simply carrying the invisible weight of believing they would never be enough for anyone. Then someone walked into their life, not with a rescue plan, not with endless compliments, just with a kind of belief that slowly became contagious. She never demanded perfection, she simply expected honesty. And somehow, that expectation made him want to become a better version of himself. Not for approval, for peace. That's when you know something unusual is happening, because healthy love doesn't force transformation, it invites it. An age gap relationship often brings this into focus. The older partner may have experiences the younger one hasn't lived yet. The younger partner may carry curiosity, hope, and a fresh perspective the older one has forgotten. From the outside, people assume one person is teaching while the other is learning. But real soulmate connections don't work like classrooms. They work like mirrors. Each person reflects something the other had stopped seeing. Maybe she reminds you that life isn't over just because you've collected more birthdays. She laughs without overthinking. She dreams without apologizing. She asks questions you stopped asking years ago. Without realizing it, you begin looking at the future differently. Not because she's younger, because she's reminded you that hope has no age. And maybe, without even trying, you give something equally valuable in return. You help her slow down when the world tells her to rush. You teach patience without giving speeches. You show her that strength doesn't always sound loud. Sometimes strength is the man who listens before he reacts. Sometimes it's the man who keeps his word when no one is watching. Sometimes it's the man who chooses honesty, even when it would be easier to hide. She notices those things, probably more than you realize. That's why people who only focus on the number of years between two partners often miss what really matters. They count birthdays, but they never count emotional growth. They measure calendars, but they don't measure peace. And those are two very different ways of looking at love. Here's something I want you to sit with for a moment. Have you ever noticed how some people make you feel smaller every time you leave them? Not because they're cruel. Sometimes it's much quieter than that. You leave feeling like you talk too much, or not enough, like you should have dressed differently, earned more, said the perfect thing. You begin editing yourself before they even speak. Now compare that with someone who leaves you feeling lighter. Not because every conversation is perfect, but because you never have to defend your existence. You don't spend the drive home wondering whether you were enough. You simply feel grateful you showed up as yourself. That feeling is incredibly easy to underestimate, until you've lived without it. A soulmate bond has a way of expanding your emotional world instead of shrinking it. You become more curious, more patient, more willing to heal old wounds instead of hiding them. Not because someone demanded change, but because love finally feels like a safe place to grow. And when two people quietly become better versions of themselves together, something else begins to happen. They stop fighting against the relationship and start standing together against everything that tries to pull them apart. The third sign isn't that life suddenly becomes easy. It doesn't. Real relationships still have difficult mornings. Misunderstandings still happen. Stress still follows you home from work. Old fears still show up without warning. But something changes. Instead of turning against each other, you begin turning toward each other. That sounds simple until you realize how rare it really is. When people feel threatened, most of us instinctively protect ourselves. We defend, we withdraw, we become quiet. Or we say things we don't actually mean, simply because we're afraid of being hurt first. It's human. I've watched couples sit across from each other, both insisting they wanted the relationship to work. Yet every disagreement became a competition. Who was right? Who cared more? Who sacrificed the most? No one was listening anymore. They were preparing their next argument before the other person had even finished speaking. Now imagine something different. Imagine the two of you having a difficult conversation after a long day. You're tired, she's emotional. Neither of you has the perfect words. For a few minutes, it feels like the conversation is slipping away. Then one of you quietly says, "I don't want to win this. I want to understand what you're feeling." Do you know what happens in that moment? The room changes. Not because the problem disappears, because the problem is no longer the enemy. The misunderstanding is. That's one of the quiet strengths I often notice in soulmate relationships. They protect the connection before they protect their pride. Especially in age gap relationships, this matters more than most people realize. Outside opinions don't disappear. Friends may question your choices, family members may worry, complete strangers may assume they know your story after seeing you together for 30 seconds. If you allow every outside voice into your relationship, eventually there won't be enough room left for your own. That's why emotionally mature couples learn something that takes many people decades to understand. Not every opinion deserves a seat at your table. That doesn't mean ignoring loved ones or refusing healthy advice. It means learning the difference between concern and projection. Some people criticize what they secretly fear. Some dismiss what they've never experienced. Others simply repeat beliefs they've inherited without ever questioning them. None of that defines your relationship. Only the two people living it can do that. I've noticed that couples with a deep emotional bond often develop a quiet kind of teamwork. It's almost invisible. She notices you're carrying more stress than usual before you say a word. You notice the smile she gives everyone else isn't quite reaching her eyes. Neither of you keeps score. Neither of you says, "I helped you 3 times, now it's your turn." Care becomes natural. Not because it's effortless, because the relationship matters more than keeping count. That kind of partnership doesn't happen overnight. It's built in ordinary moments. The cup of coffee waiting when one of you has had a difficult morning. The hand that reaches across the table without thinking. The apology that comes before resentment has a chance to grow. The conversation that begins with curiosity instead of accusation. People often believe soulmate connections are defined by grand romantic gestures. But the strongest bonds I've ever witnessed were built on small moments repeated hundreds of times. Tiny choices, daily kindness, consistent respect. Those things don't look dramatic from the outside, yet they're the reason some relationships quietly grow stronger while others slowly drift apart. And eventually, if that foundation keeps growing, you reach a place that surprises even the people living inside it. A place where the relationship no longer feels like something you're trying to prove. It simply feels like home. The fourth sign is one that almost nobody talks about. You stop trying to convince the world that your relationship is real. At first, that sounds impossible, especially if your relationship has an age gap. In the beginning, every comment feels personal. Someone raises an eyebrow, someone asks an intrusive question, someone jokes about your ages as if they've uncovered a secret no one else noticed. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, but later that night, lying awake, those words replay in your head. You wonder if they're seeing something you're too close to notice. That's a painful place to live, because you're no longer experiencing your relationship directly, you're experiencing it through other people's opinions. I've seen this happen to thoughtful, intelligent men. They begin second-guessing moments that once felt effortless. A simple dinner becomes, "What are people thinking?" Holding her hand in public becomes, "Do we look strange together?" Even happiness starts asking permission from strangers. But then something shifts, not all at once, slowly, almost quietly. You realize something that changes everything. The people commenting don't go home with you. They don't hear your late-night conversations. They don't know how she looks at you when you've had a difficult day. They've never watched the two of you laugh over something so ordinary that no one else would understand why it's funny. They're judging a photograph. You're living the story. Those are not the same thing. One evening, a man shared something with me that I still remember. He said, "I spent 2 years trying to explain my relationship to everyone else. Then I realized I had stopped enjoying it." That sentence stayed with me because it's so easy to fall into that trap. When you're constantly defending your happiness, you don't have enough energy left to simply experience it. Real love asks for presence, not performance. And that's when another quiet change begins. You stop comparing your relationship to everyone else's. You stop asking why another couple got engaged faster, why someone else's marriage looks more exciting online, why another man's story seems simpler than yours. Comparison slowly loses its grip because you've learned something social media can never teach. Every relationship has a private language, the jokes no one else understands, the routines that look boring to everyone else but somehow make both of you smile. The silent glance across a crowded room that says, "I'm here." Those moments don't need applause. They don't become more valuable because someone else approves of them. In fact, many of the strongest relationships are surprisingly ordinary from the outside. No constant drama, no endless declarations, no need to prove anything. Just two people choosing each other again and again, especially on the days when life feels heavy. And maybe that's what maturity really looks like. Not finding a perfect relationship, finding one where both people keep returning to each other with honesty. You begin to understand that love isn't sustained by excitement alone. It's sustained by trust, by consistency, by the quiet confidence that even after a disagreement, you're still on the same side. That kind of security is difficult to fake. It grows slowly, like a tree whose roots are spreading beneath the surface long before anyone notices its height. And once those roots are deep enough, one final sign begins to reveal itself. It's the sign that has the least to do with romance, and the most to do with destiny, not as something magical, but as something built day by two people who keep choosing the same direction. The fifth sign is this. You don't just imagine a future together, you build one naturally. There's an important difference. Some relationships survive on fantasy. You dream about the vacations you'll take, the house you'll buy, the life you'll have once everything is finally perfect. But the future never quite arrives because the relationship depends on imagination more than reality. A soulmate bond feels different. It isn't built on escaping life, it's built on living it. One ordinary day at a time. You begin making small decisions without even realizing they're shaping a shared future. You ask her opinion before making an important choice, not because you need permission, but because her perspective genuinely matters to you. She starts talking about months from now as if your presence is already part of the picture. Neither of you forces those conversations. They simply appear. And that's what makes them meaningful. I've often noticed that men searching for certainty ask the wrong question. They ask, "How do I know she's the one?" It's understandable, we all want guarantees. We want someone to promise that our heart will never be broken. But relationships don't come with guarantees. What they offer is something quieter: patterns. The way two people consistently show up for each other, the way they respond when life becomes inconvenient, the way respect survives even when emotions run high. Those patterns tell you far more than a single romantic moment ever could. If your relationship has an age gap, there will probably be seasons when outside opinions become louder again. Life has a way of testing every meaningful commitment. Someone may question your intentions, someone may question hers. Circumstances may change, dreams may evolve. The question isn't whether challenges will come. The question is whether the two of you keep choosing honesty over assumption, conversation over silence, understanding over pride. Because that's where lasting love quietly lives, not in perfection, in repair. I've learned something from listening to countless stories over the years. The couples who remain deeply connected aren't the ones who never hurt each other. They're the ones who refuse to let hurt become distance. They notice the silence. They ask difficult questions. They apologize without treating the apology like defeat. They forgive without pretending pain never existed. Little by little, trust grows stronger than fear. And when that happens, something beautiful unfolds. The age difference becomes one detail in a much larger story. Not the headline, not the foundation, just one chapter among many. What defines the relationship isn't the number of years between your birthdays. It's the number of moments where you both chose understanding over ego. The number of mornings you kept showing up. The number of evenings you reached for each other's hand after a difficult day. If you've recognized these 5 signs in your own relationship, don't rush to label it. Don't feel pressured to prove anything to anyone. Instead, protect what you've been fortunate enough to find. Keep listening, keep growing, keep choosing honesty, especially when it's uncomfortable. Because real soulmate bonds aren't measured by how loudly they begin, they're measured by how quietly they endure. And maybe that's the truth you needed to hear tonight. Not that love ignores age, but that the strongest relationships are rarely built on numbers. They're built on emotional safety, mutual growth, shared resilience, quiet trust, and the daily decision to walk through life side by side. If you found yourself in these words, then perhaps the question was never whether your relationship looks different from everyone else's. Perhaps the better question is this: when you're with her, do you become more honest, more peaceful, and more yourself than you've ever been before? Sometimes. That answer tells you everything you need to know.